Hi, Professor Winiger and Sociology 305 students. I just wanted to thank you again for letting me come to your class. I found it really fun and really thought-provoking. And when I got home, because of our conversation and your questions, I actually made a few changes to my slideshow. And so I wanted to show you what they were. The first one was I added a fifth way to generate new ideas, and that is, of course, walk away for a minute. It's always great to, if you're stuck, to just walk away, and sometimes the ideas come just flooding in, as they did for me. As soon as I walked out of Bell Tower and got into my car, I thought about so many other things, so many other ways we could have refined those ideas of depression and religion. So always try that. It works for me often. Even sometimes I'll just go get a drink of water or go to the bathroom, and I'll come back and I'll have all kinds of new ideas for whatever problem or project I'm working on. So definitely try that. You know it, but try it. Just a reminder to try it. The next thing I changed in the slides were where I put Mind Your Life, I also put anecdote can lead to questions, because as we were struggling with that idea of religion and how to narrow it, and I wasn't coming up with anything either, and I was thinking, shoot, this is sociology, it's not my area of expertise. But then I realized I actually have a lot of experience with religion. I've been to church, I've talked with people, I've done different things, and so I actually have some ideas. They may not be academic ideas, but they can lead to a good academic question. So these were some of my ideas. So definitely anecdotes are a way to get ideas. Not a way to prove anything, but a way to get ideas. And so for an example, I know the printing is very small, but for an example, we were talking about how does religion affect depression and how could that idea be narrowed down. I thought first about the independent variable, the depression variable, and we did talk about specifying a religion or comparing two religions, but then I also thought about the mechanism of how would religion actually affect depression. And it might, it can affect in both a positive or a negative way. It might affect someone's tendency to be depressed or a population's frequency of depression through belief in a higher power. Or it might through the idea of hope. And those might be positive or negative. And again, also traditional role expectations is something that is often thought about when we think about religion and religious communities, and whether you're meeting those traditional role expectations or you're not, or you're thriving by being part of that role or thriving by rebelling against that role. All those things could come into play. Similarly, very similar, conflict of norms with actions. What's expected and what your life really like. Is that a source of anxiety, a source of stress that could maybe affect depression? And then another, of course, is just religious practices, things like prayer or meditation. Can they affect depression in an individual or in a population? So those are some of the ideas I thought of. I don't know how all of them might fit into sociology. Some of them might be more psychology, but some ideas anyway. And then the dependent variable, depression itself, how can we narrow that down? I actually didn't know. I mentioned some different types of depression in class, but I didn't really know that much about it. So I went to the internet and looked it up. And I just quickly picked one of the top health websites. This happens to be the clevelandclinic.org. And they list all these different types of depression. There's clinical depression, persistent depressive disorder, one that happens in children, disruptive mood dysregulation, premenstrual, postpartum, seasonal, atypical depression associated with medication or diseases. And so there's quite a few kinds of depression when you can narrow things down that way. And you can also potentially narrow things down through causes of depression, or think more about how is religion going to affect depression. Well, it's going to be through some mechanism, right? And of these different causes that the Cleveland Clinic has listed as for depression, probably religion would act through mediating stressful life events, right? So if there's a death of a loved one, how does religion affect that? Or trauma or lack of support? How does religion work through those causes of depression to affect levels or frequency of depression? So those were some ideas I had there. And then there's maybe more of the social view of depression. Maybe this is more in terms of recognition or stigma surrounding depression. How does that affect people's willingness to be treated, to look for a diagnosis, to learn more? So all those ideas about attitudes and stigma and ability to learn would also be an interesting way to look at religion and depression. So those were my ideas, and what I did then was the change I made was on these, instead of just having aspect, I put lens and mechanism too, because that might help you to, or help anybody to figure out, okay, how can I narrow it down more? I don't really understand aspect, but I got mechanism. I can see mechanism. So that was the other insight I had. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much again for letting me join your class, and good luck with those papers, and I hope to see you at the WMC. Bye-bye.